Welcome back to the Sports News Analysis YouTube channel. My name is Mike. I'm continuing my NFL playoff recaps and analysis, and this video is for the divisional round matchup between the San Francisco 49ers and the Carolina Panthers. The San Francisco 49ers defeat the Panthers by a score of 23-10, going on the road here in the divisional round and beating the higher seed Panthers. It will set up the stage for an NFC West showdown in the NFC Championship game when San Francisco will travel to Seattle. But first, this game, I think if you look at it from a Carolina standpoint, you're really going to harp on a couple things if you're a Carolina fan. First and foremost, I point to the two drives in the first half in which Carolina had first and goal to go from inside the 5. Those two drives, they're only able to get 3 points. They went forward on fourth and 1 from the 1 and were stopped by the San Francisco defense. And then on the subsequent drive, they kicked a field goal. So you had two drives in prime scoring position in a game where possessions were limited, and Carolina only gets 3 points from those two drives, which I thought was, absolutely crucial. I look at that. I look at how in the second half, it looked as though Carolina did not make the necessary adjustments on both the offensive and defensive sides of the ball. And, you see that sometimes with inexperienced playoff teams. San Francisco obviously went in that locker room, came out, and did some things that I don't know if they confused the Panthers, but certainly the way they executed it, it looked like they either confused the Panthers or just simply outplayed them in that second half. You saw Anquan Boldin's presence loom large in this game. And I thought something that the Panthers fans, I think when they go back and evaluate this game, that defensive line was really nowhere to be found, especially in the second half of this game, and especially on the two long drives the 49ers went on. They had a 77-yard drive and an 80-yard drive back-to-back, which resulted in 2 touchdowns and were really the difference of this game. If you look at it, again, this is a game that had possessions that were limited. You look at those 2 drives, okay, the one right before halftime and the other one to start, the second half. I think that was obviously a huge factor in this game. You had San Francisco score 17 points to end the game, down 10-6, score 17 straight unanswered to win it. And another thing for Carolina that's really going to stick in their craw, I think, especially the players, they go on that 8-minute drive in the third quarter, an 8-minute drive that only covered about 31 yards, and they end up with no points out of it. If you remember, that's the drive where Cam Newton was sacked twice, all right, on second and third down to take them not only out of, obviously being able to score a touchdown, but take them completely out of field goal range too. And I thought after that just sort of deflated the Panthers as a whole. I think you heard, the crowd even deflated by a drive that looked like it was going somewhere, really gets stymied. And from San Francisco's point of view, this game featured the good play of Anquan Boldin. I know he was talking a lot, and I know Troy Aikman pointed that out, but on the flip side of that, no one from Carolina stopped the guy. So he played very well in this game, obviously. You had Frank Gore, okay, with that big run when he needed to. I think he had 39 yards in the game up to that point, then ripped off that crucial 39-yard run that ended in the Phil Dawson field goal. So, Carolina got some good play from the usual suspects, but I think the group that played the best for Carolina was that linebacking core. That linebacking core was instrumental on those stops on the goal line I talked about. They were instrumental in sacking Cam Newton 4 times and twice, again, on that crucial drive in the third quarter, that 8-minute drive that I had just talked about. I think when you look at the San Francisco linebackers, okay, playing like they did, the lack of a pass rush from that Panthers defensive line, which again I think is a big story of this game because they're not able to put pressure on Colin Kaepernick. And if you listen to my videos all year, I was pretty adamant in saying this Panthers secondary wouldn't be able to hold up if this front four wasn't that good. And it was a game where they weren't that great, especially in the second half. And you saw Kaepernick and Boldin and company really take advantage of that. And I just think when it all shook out, you had a team in San Francisco with a little bit more experience. I think top to bottom, a little bit better talent. And look, when the game got physical and the game got rough, I think the 49ers held their cool better. They made the better second half adjustments, and their quarterback played better. I thought Colin Kaepernick looked a lot more poised in that second half than Cam Newton did. Cam Newton and the Panthers have come a long way, certainly. This will be a learning lesson for them as they head into next year. They did win 11 of 12 games to close out the season. You can't forget that. but just in this game, the adjustments in the second half, the conservative play calling by Mike Shula, and obviously that defense getting beat on those 2 long drives, I think are going to be the takeaways for Panthers fans as they head into the offseason. And San Francisco now will go to their 3rd straight NFC Championship game. I'll be previewing that game here, guys, in a couple minutes, so be sure to check that out as well. But look, it's the matchup we've all been looking forward to. If you listen to this channel, you know it's the matchup I've been hyping all year. San Francisco, Seattle. The game will take place up in CenturyLink Field, and I'll have a preview up soon. But let me know what you guys thought of this game first. Hit me up in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter as well. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, guys. We're closing out the playoffs here with about 4 games to go now, if you count the Denver game coming up here. But I'm going to be covering the draft, covering the offseason. So be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for listening. Have a great night.